Snow fell softly across the old stone church, dusting the worn wooden benches and the cracked concrete steps like powdered sugar on a forgotten cake. It was almost sunset. The sky was a bruised mix of violet and fading gold, but inside the church courtyard sat a young woman who looked as though the world had emptied itself of color just for her. Her name was Mira. She could have been no older than 22, but life had carved exhaustion into her delicate features, soft brown hair tangled by the cold wind, pale fingers trembling in side sleeves that were far too thin for winter, and eyes that held the kind of sadness only someone who had lost everything could carry. She hugged her knees close, not for warmth, because the cold felt almost comforting, but because she had nothing else left to hold. Her stomach growled. Her vision blurred. Her heart hurt with a loneliness she could barely describe. The church bell chimed. People passed by. No one stopped. No one asked if she was okay. She whispered to herself, just a little more. Just survive one more night. But deep down, she wasn't sure she could. Then it happened. The large oak doors of the church creaked open, and a tiny figure hurried out, bundled in a fluffy pink coat with pom-poms bouncing on her hat. She looked like a small ball of winter joy running on short little legs. Her name was Lena, only 6 years old. Behind her walked a man, tall, calm, and warm-eyed, her father, Aaron, a volunteer at the church soup kitchen. He carried 2 steaming bowls of stew and a thermos tucked into his arm, calling gently. Lena, slow down. You'll slip. But Lena wasn't listening. Her eyes had already found Mira. And Lena, innocent, unbroken by the world, did what no adult had dared to do. She stopped running, tiptoed closer to the freezing young woman sitting alone on the steps, and tilted her head with childlike curiosity. Mira looked up startled. She wasn't used to anyone approaching her. Not kindly, at least. Lena blinked. Then blinked again. Then she smiled a smile so bright, it almost felt unreal against the dreary winter dusk. Without fear, without judgment, without hesitation, Lena softly asked, Miss, are you sad? Mira's lips parted, but no sound came out. The girl's voice was tiny, sweet, and painfully sincere. She wasn't mocking. She wasn't scared. She wasn't avoiding. She cared. For a second, something in Mira's chest cracked. The wall she'd built around herself quivered. I'm okay, Mira managed to whisper. But Lena frowned, crossing her tiny arms like an upset little bird. No, you're not. Daddy says it's okay to say you're not okay. Mira blinked quickly, desperately trying to stop tears from forming. She had spent weeks hiding emotions behind a numb, practiced silence, but this little girl, this child with round cheeks and warm eyes, had somehow peeled through layers of hurt with a single sentence. Before Mira could respond, Lena stepped even closer. Miss, she whispered, I think you need a hug. Can I hug you? The world seemed to stop. Even the wind stilled, as if waiting for Mira's answer. Mira stared at the child. No one, N-O-1, had asked to hug her in months. Not since the night she left home. Not since she lost her job. Not since her life collapsed like a house of cards in a storm. Why would a child want to hug someone like her? Someone dirty, cold, starving, forgotten? She shook her head weakly. You don't have to do that. But Lena took that as a yes. With all the fearless innocence of a child who believed hugs could fix the world, she wrapped her arms around Mira's waist and squeezed her tightly, warmth meeting cold, light touching darkness. Mira gasped. The hug wasn't big. It wasn't strong. But it was real. So painfully real. It melted something inside her, something she didn't know had frozen over. Aaron rushed forward, gently placing the bowls of soup on the church steps. Lena, he said softly, kneeling beside them, you need to ask before hugging strangers. I did, Lena replied proudly. And she's really cold and really sad, Daddy. Aaron turned to Mira. Their eyes met. In that moment, he didn't see a homeless girl. He didn't see someone to pity. He saw a human being who had been carrying far too much for far too long. Would you like something warm? He asked softly. Mira opened her mouth, but no words came. Tears filled her eyes, falling too fast for her to hide. Aaron gently pushed a bowl toward her. It's okay. Really. You're safe here. When Mira reached for the bowl, her hands shook violently. Not from the cold, but from emotion. No one had been this kind to her in months. She whispered, voice cracking. Thank you. I don't know how to repay. You don't have to, Aaron said kindly. Kindness isn't a loan. But then Lena tugged on Myra's sleeve again. Miss, she whispered. Yes? Mira replied, wiping her tears. Lena hesitated, then placed her tiny hand over Myra's heart. Daddy says when your heart hurts too much, sharing it makes it hurt less. You can tell us what happened if you want. No adult could have said something that powerful, because that was the moment Mira broke. Completely. Silently. Honestly. She began to cry, not soft and quiet, but deep, heaving sobs that came from the middle of her soul. The kind of tears she had swallowed night after night until she felt hollow. And Aaron didn't rush her. Lena didn't let go of her. No one told her to be strong. No one told her to stop. They just stayed. For the first time in months, Mira wasn't alone. Snow drifted faster now, dancing in the wind like tiny shards of glass. Yet, somehow, the world around the three of them, Mira, Lena, and Aaron, felt warmer than it had moments ago. Mira wiped her face with shaking palms, embarrassed by how hard she had cried. I'm sorry, she whispered. Aaron shook his head gently. You don't have to apologize for being human. Lena nodded in full agreement, resting her head on Myra's arm as though she had known her forever. Children had a way of trusting, of feeling intentions rather than appearances. And right now, Lena saw only someone who needed love. Do you want to tell us what happened? Aaron asked softly. For a moment, Mira hesitated. Her life had been a spiral of silence. She had learned that when she spoke, no one listened. When she asked for help, doors closed. When she cried, the world mocked. But this time felt different. Her voice was fragile when she finally spoke. I didn't choose this, she began. I had a job, a room, a future. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. I worked at a diner for 2 years until the new manager came. He didn't like me because I wouldn't do things he asked that weren't right. He cut my hours, then fired me. Lena stayed very still, listening like a tiny angel on duty. Mira continued. The church bells rang twice, deep, slow, echoing through the cold air like a heartbeat pulling everything together. Inside the small side room, lit by a flickering wall lamp, Mira felt warmth she hadn't known in years. Not the warmth of a heater. Not the warmth of a blanket. A different warmth, one that came from being seen, from being heard, from being cared for. Lena's tiny hand was still wrapped around hers, swinging their arms back and forth as if she were grounding Mira to the earth again. Aaron returned with a tray, hot soup, bread, tea, and 2 extra blankets he had found in the church storage. You need to eat, he told her gently. Warm up from the inside first. Mira smiled weakly. You don't even know me. Aaron placed the tray down and sat across from her. That's the thing about kindness, he said quietly. It's not something we give because we know someone. It's something we give because we can. Lena nodded proudly, like she had taught him that lesson herself. A story she had never told. After a few sips of soup, Mira spoke again. Her voice steadier now, almost braver. I came to this town because it was supposed to be better than the one I left. I had dreams once. I wanted to study nursing, maybe become someone who helps others. Her eyes softened. But I didn't even have the chance to help myself. Aaron leaned forward. What if you still can? She laughed weakly. I live on the street, Aaron. But you're still here. You're still fighting. That matters more than you think. No one had ever spoken to her like that. As if she still had value. As if life hadn't taken everything from her. She stared into the steaming cup of tea and whispered, I don't want to be this version of myself forever. Lena squeezed her hand. Then don't be. Simple words. But they pierced deeper than anything else. A decision that changed everything. The storm outside grew louder, but inside the walls of the church, a different storm was calming. Aaron exhaled deeply before speaking again. Mira, I need to tell you something. She looked up, nervous. Was he going to judge her? Tell her they had helped enough? Ask her to leave? He took a breath. I run a small community center. We help families, single parents, and people trying to get back on their feet. I think if you want, I can help you. A place to stay temporarily. Food. Clothes. Even help you get your documents again. And maybe help you get back into school later. Mira froze. Her spoon trembled slightly in her hand. Why? She whispered. Why would you do that for me? Aaron glanced at Lena. My daughter taught me something today, he said softly. She taught me that sometimes we walk past people who are drowning, even when we have the ability to pull them out. Lena grinned. Because hugs fix people. Mira laughed through a choked sob. A sound so fragile, yet so alive. You don't have to decide now, Aaron added. Just know that the offer is real. Mira nodded, tears sliding softly down her cheeks. A hug that healed years of hurt. The church inside grew quiet for a long moment. Then Lena suddenly stood up, patting her dress with her little hands. Mira? Yes, sweetheart. One more hug before we go? Mira nodded, without hesitation this time. Lena climbed into her arms, wrapping her tiny arms around Myra's neck. It wasn't just a hug. It was a promise. A promise that even broken people deserve love. A promise that even lonely souls deserve warmth. A promise that even after darkness, light can still find its way back. Mira held her tightly, breathing in the innocence, purity, and hope that she thought she had lost forever. When Lena finally pulled away, she whispered into Myra's ear, I think you're going to be okay now. And for the first time in years, Mira believed that. The first step toward tomorrow. Later, Aaron helped Mira put on the extra coat he'd brought. She felt shy, almost out of place, holding a new blanket, a bag of food, and a little girl's lingering warmth. You ready? He asked. Mira inhaled deeply. No, she said truthfully. But maybe I'm ready to try. That's enough, Aaron said. Outside, the wind still roared, but the three of them walked through the snow together. Mira in the middle, Lena skipping beside her, Aaron carrying her things without a second thought. They reached the community van parked across the street. Before getting in, Mira looked back at the glowing window of the church. I came in there broken, she whispered. And I'm leaving with something I didn't expect. What's that? Aaron asked. Hope. A new beginning. At the community center, Mira was given a warm room, clean clothes, and a safe place to sleep. But it wasn't the room that changed her. Or the food. Or the bed. It was the fact that two someones actually had stopped in the middle of a busy world to see her. Days passed. Mira began helping in the kitchen. She helped clean, organize books, play with the children who visited the center. Her gentle heart blossomed in the place where she finally felt safe. One morning, Aaron called her into the office. You start your GED classes next month, he said proudly. And after that, our nursing program partners will take your application. Myra's hand flew to her mouth. Me? A student? Again? You. Aaron nodded. With the biggest heart I've ever seen. She hadn't hugged anyone in years. But that day, she hugged him. A grateful, strong, heartfelt hug that said everything words couldn't. And Lena, who had been hiding behind the door, ran in and wrapped both of them in her tiny arms. A family not by blood, but by kindness. The moral of the story. Sometimes a person doesn't need money. Sometimes they don't need advice. Sometimes they just need someone to stop, to see them, to care, to listen. One hug from a child started a chain of kindness that saved a life. Never underestimate the power of compassion. You never know whose entire world you might save. Red Heart's Call to Action CTA for your Faceless Story channel. Backhand index pointing right if this story touched your heart. Make sure to like the video. Backhand index pointing right, share it with someone who believes kindness still exists. Backhand index pointing right, and don't forget to subscribe for more emotional, life-changing stories every day.